Geordie Journo's back. Going to struggle to go through this one without swearing. I'm genuinely shell-shocked by what we've seen here at St James's Park today. I think the lads beside me, Dom Skur here and Jordan Cronin, they've both just been in with Eddie Howe. Some of my thoughts on the game, I think that's probably by far the worst result and the way it panned out since Eddie Howe took over. Pitiful is how I would describe it, surrendering the way that they did in that second half so easily to a plucky Liverpool side who really did, from their perspective, put in a tremendous performance, but it was shambolic in many ways that they managed to just crumble so easily. I'm genuinely a lot of questions about that game in itself. I think if you're going to analyse it, it wasn't the worst of performances for large parts of it. They did a lot of what they needed to do, controlled the majority of the game against 10 men, but just didn't take any chances, and you're always susceptible to counters. Didn't deal with Darwin, Nunez in any way, shape or form. Had a full 60 minutes against Cody Gakpo, who may as well have been invisible. He was poor. Put a proper centre forward on in Nunez, and the centre halves in Newcastle didn't know how to deal with him, couldn't cope with him, and he got the 2 goals, and they've gone away victorious. And you've got to say that it's ultimately 2 defeats out of 3 at the start of the Premier League is in crisis time. Lose at Brighton next week and the heat might turn up if they come away empty-handed from the South Coast. I'll come to you, Dom, first and see what you think about that. You're struggling to get anything from me because I find the manner in which the way they were beaten today quite grim, actually.
Yeah, it feels like defeat from the jaws of victory, doesn't it, really, where for 45 minutes we're going in at half time and thinking Newcastle, they need that second goal. Liverpool probably showed enough in the first half to suggest they could cause Newcastle problems in the transition, but like you say, Cody Gakpo wasn't really causing the centre-backs any problems. And then the changes, the substitutions, Jordan asked Eddie Howe in the press conference, Liverpool's substitutions probably won them the game as such. Newcastle's probably lost them, and I thought Anthony Gordon was excellent for the best part of the 70 minutes he was on the pitch. He scored the goal. He could have arguably saw Trent Alexander-Arnold sent off. Virgil van Dijk did get sent off shortly after, and you think from there, Newcastle at home, they've never lost. I said during the game, probably jinxed it, Newcastle have never lost at St James's Park under Eddie Howe after taking the lead. Now against 10 men, a good Liverpool side admittedly, they've done that. It's the first defeat after doing that, so that's why it probably feels so numbing and so disappointing, really. I mean, it's important not to overreact 3 games into the season, but like Liam says, it took Newcastle until they played Liverpool at home in February last season to lose 2 Premier League games. We're a few weeks into the Premier League season, they've already done that. So yeah, it's important to get a reaction at Brighton next weekend. But yeah, I think the substitutions, and Jordan, you can add to that based on your question, Eddie Howe, but I thought Anthony Gordon, Newcastle's best player, took him off. Harvey Barnes, a good player coming on, just didn't make the impact. He takes Sandro Tonali off, and with that, I think Newcastle's control of the game really pretty much disappeared.
So I felt they were losing a bit of control before Howe made the substitutions. I thought Newcastle always felt prone to a counter attack, and I said countless times to you guys throughout the game that it feels like Liverpool have got a goal in them here. Now I don't blame Eddie Howe for making them substitutions because it's a standard substitution from him. But the first 2 games of the season, Aston Villa, Man City, it was Harvey Barnes, Callum Wilson, so I understand why he brought them on, but I thought their impact really wasn't there. Whereas on the other hand, Liverpool, Darwin Nunez comes on and absolutely ripped that Newcastle back 4 to bits in that final 20 minutes, I think it was. But I think, having watched it, Newcastle and Eddie Howe, I think that's probably the worst final 10 minutes or a 10-minute period in the game that I've seen. Just, it was self-implosion in the end. How you lose a game from being a man up, a goal up, how you lose from that position is a real disappointment. Bit of a sour taste, that one. So yeah, I think the pressure's on now to I know, again, I don't really overreact to Dom said it, but Newcastle have played 3 games this season, they've lost 2. They go to Brighton next, which is a really, really tough place to go, and it does feel like the pressure's on a bit for them to get a result, because you don't want to head into the international break with 3 defeats, because the mood around this place, especially heading into Champions League football next month, it might be a little bit of a disaster if they have this split cup going to Champions League, because that feel-good factor might just feel a little bit less.
Yeah, I think there's almost, you come away from the game today with more questions than answers. Going back to the analysis of the game, I think Tonali, I mean, it probably wasn't his best performance, but he was decent today, and I think as soon as he came out of that midfield, Newcastle United lost a lot of control. That wasn't any, that isn't a barb towards Sean Longstaff. I thought actually give them something totally different. Played much higher up, pressed much higher up, but they lost that control in that sort of defensive third. Bruno was exposed massively, having had an excellent hour. The protection was taken away from him, and Liverpool absolutely swamped Newcastle United and got through on that back 4. Going back to the broader thinking, because we're still a little under a week away from the end of the transfer window. Eddie Howe talking to you guys in there about potentially not even dipping into the market again. It's not as certain that they will. I want to talk a little bit about and analyse the summer, and again, it's quite reactionary. We're sitting here having sort of gone through that the pain of that defeat there. But what I would ask is, Newcastle are probably still one of the biggest spenders in the Premier League and in European football, and how much in that 120 to 140 million, however you estimate it, spend, how much have they actually improved their starting 11? Now, what we've seen so far is with one player, they've improved one position. They went into a summer needing a left back, probably needing a centre half, ideally wanting to upgrade on a right-sided forward, and definitely strengthen and bolster a midfield. They've only actually improved so far, and again, it's not taken the medium to long term into the equation. They've improved one player out of that starting 11.
But he hasn't started again.
Well, Tonali's the only one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Tonali's the only one.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about Harvey Barnes.
No, so Barnes is the other one that yes, he was probably signed as an idea of upgrading, well, improving upon the output with regards to Alan St-Maximin, and he hasn't started a game. Anthony Gordon was excellent for the 60 minutes that he was on today. But what I would say is, again, not taking the medium to long term thinking into the equation. Eddie Howe talked, and we were talking about this before, Dom. Eddie Howe talked about the need to be creative, the need to be in a tight summer where they wouldn't have a lot of wriggle room. They've probably, as we know, it will become permanent next summer, they've gone and spent the largest part of £70 million on 60 to 70 million pounds on 2 fullbacks who don't immediately impact the team, the starting 11. Now, to me, are Newcastle United as a football club and as a team do they have the luxury of being able to do that? I don't think they do, personally. And I think, again, I could be taught, look, this video might age horrendously, and we might be looking at Lewis Hall and Tino Livramento being Newcastle United's fullbacks for the next 10 years. They might play for England and all this kind of stuff. But what I would say is this team needed immediately improving, and do either of those players immediately improve the team? They might, and Eddie Howe might bring them in, but he hasn't. It's not like they went and spent 30 odd million on a fullback. He doesn't replace Kieran Trippier. They went and spent 28 million, well, will be 28 million pound with some clever accounting. It's a loan deal at the present. But my target still comes on when there's an injury in the back 4. It doesn't make a lot of sense at the moment when you're trying to improve a team immediately, and that's what they needed. They needed an injection of quality, and the only person who's brought an injection of quality so far, and I think Harvey Barnes will impact the team and will have a good season, but the only one at the moment is Tonali. I just don't believe, and this could turn out to be the best window Newcastle United ever have. I'm caveating it with that, but at present, what I've seen in the 3 games so far, they've improved one position. I just don't think they had the luxury to do that.
I think what Eddie Howe would argue is, when you're playing 50, 60 games a season, as Newcastle could well do, the squad as a whole is in a much stronger position than it was last season.
It is.
You're not looking at a bench where it's Matt Ritchie, Paul Dummett, Javier Manquillo. None of those players got on the bench today. The bench is looking considerably stronger, but I think you're right. The starting 11, other than Tonali, Barnes potentially, but Anthony Gordon's had a really good start to the season, hasn't massively improved on last season. But
I think you could have, for me, Could you not have spent £70 million on improving the team? I don't think they've actually done that. I think it could turn out to be a little bit of an oversight, and I think there's even decisions being taken now where an injury in the back line, Jamal Lascelles doesn't even get on. There's the 4 centre halves that they have. Do they need to go out and get another one? Sven Botman, is that injury? I mean, we're hoping it's not going to be too bad, but they might need to dip in again and go and sign somebody in that position. But bringing a Matt Targett on, who clearly is realistic. Let's be realistic about this. They've not signed Lewis Hall surely to be the third choice left back, because there's Matt Targett. We've seen already Matt Targett ahead and Dan Burn. Yes, talking about match fitness, he's not quite there. But Newcastle United really need, if they're going to continue that progress, need players who can impact the team now. And we're not yet able to say that they've actually done that. For me, I think it might prove to be an amazing window in the medium term, but in the short term it hasn't really made much of an impact. Could they not have gone out and signed a winger or a left back who was ready to play immediately, ready to come in and have an instant impact? Like you say, there's a lot of games to be played, but now in the short term they need players who are going to hit the ground running and impact. And Eddie Howe's big on that. He's big on signing players with Premier League experience, and he's already signed 3 this summer with Premier League experience who've had minimal impact in the first 3 games of the season. How long we're going to wait before they have an impact, who knows?
Yeah, I've got nothing to add on that. I think you guys are spot on. I would say, I would argue that Newcastle's transfer window has been successful, but to counter that, again, maybe a successful transfer window in 2 or 3 years to come, you look at it and go, yeah, great window. But right now, in terms of the team, have they strengthened that starting 11 significantly? Doesn't feel that way at the moment.
John, that's how you build for me, that's how you build a squad. And I've said this even before the start of the window, and I was talking to you guys, we've been talking about this non-stop for as long as we've been covering Newcastle United. And I think the way that you improve it as a squad is by improving your first team. You sign first team players who knock players who are already in the first team down to your bench, and that's how you build an impressive squad. You don't sign players to fill positions on the bench, and that's kind of where, that's my frustration so far with this window.
If you're looking at Newcastle's first team now, though, which player do you think we need to improve in the last week of the window? Is there a player that stands out?
I mean, if you're putting us on the spot, I potentially could be going down NUFC 360 routes here.
Sorry, I've thrown you under the bus.
No, so I think it was obvious to me they need to sign a left back, somebody who could start, and have Dan Burn as a backup and a backup centre half. And they need to sign probably another forward.
So on that as well, the position I feel Newcastle need to strengthen is the right hand side, which is where neither Armon plays.
That's where he's playing at the moment. I think they need a better version. Yeah.
But what I thought Newcastle had done was you bring Harvey Barnes on the left and Anthony Gordon goes on the right. Armon drops out as a sort of squad player, but we haven't seen Anthony Gordon once on the right wing at
Not
Newcastle.
even in pre-season.
I think he played on the right hand side against Chelsea on the last day, but that was the right hand side of midfield 3. It wasn't on the wing.
It's easy to doubt it in a moment like this. You get emotional, but I think they're legitimate questions. I genuinely think they're legitimate questions about the broader thinking this summer. Like I say, this could all date very badly in time.
I hope it does.
And you know what? I want it to. I'd love this video to pop up in 2 years' time and say, what a load of rubbish you are talking about. Won't be the first time. Certainly won't be the last. Well, hopefully. Try and keep the standards up on Geordie journals. I'm not going back to the old days. But no, I think look, we could sit here all night and chat about everything. I don't know if you've got anything to add on the game, because there might not be many people want to watch this. There might be lots of people out there bury their head in the sand for the next few days and maybe just look forward to that Champions League draw and find out who we get in the League Cup, and then maybe the mood will change until the impending doom of Friday, no more signings, and then and then Brighton come up in the equation. But no, I think, look, it's not a time to overreact, but I think there are legitimate questions about the way that the team played, and they need, look, the easiest thing these guys can do now is go and put a performance on at Brighton and go and get something. Don't come away from the Amex empty-handed. Come away with something to show for your first 4 games, because you've thrown 3 away today. At least go and get 1 down there. That's the only way that they can go about rectifying this somewhat. Learn some lessons from it. Make sure this kind of feeling, because they'll be hurting. They'll all be hurting tonight. Make sure you don't feel that kind of feeling again. Blips happen. You have bad games. You have bad days. It was one today. We've had more good days than bad days under Eddie Howe. But what we're doing here on the Geordie Journals is bringing up legitimate questions, because I'm sure this is the type of thing we're talking about it, so I'm sure you guys are talking about it as well, especially going into that last week of the transfer window. Anything to add, lads?
No, just keep watching the videos. Thank you. We hit 1,000 subscribers, which
Yes.
I mean, the support has been incredible, and you might not always agree with what we have to say, but people commenting, open discussion, it's been really great to see, and it's been really humbling for us that people seem to enjoy what we're doing so far. You might not enjoy this video, particularly after the nature of the defeat, but it means a lot, and we'll keep doing this as long as we can.
Well done, lads. 1,000 in. We love the tune. We love doing the job that we do. Just give a bit of support, like, subscribe, and share it with your friends as well.